just a few months ago, there were a lot of people that were feeling anxious because GTA 6 was supposed to come out at the end of this year. And people were like, bro, that's so long from now. How am I going to hold myself over? And then it was announced that it was delayed. It's like, oh God, now GTA 6 is coming out May of next year. What could I possibly play to hold me over until then? Well, there was a game. I let it slip. There is a game. There is a game that was framed as a solution to this problem, as something to hold you over until GTA 6. And this was not just something people were saying, hey, looks kind of like an open world adventure game. Maybe it's a good substitute for GTA. No, literally the studio behind the game, they were promoting posts on Reddit that compared MindsEye to GTA 6. They literally put themselves in that same basket, okay? And as I've said before, when you enter into a genre, or certainly once you compare yourself to another game, you are held to all of those standards. If you make a spacefaring game, like where you fly a spaceship and travel to different planets, you're going to be compared to Elite Dangerous, No Man's Sky, Star Citizen. All of those games are going to be compared to you. And if you fall short, it's going to make your game look worse because you chose to enter into that arena, right? And in this case, they chose to go up against the behemoth that was GTA, and it didn't turn out too well for them, as we know too well at this point. Alex Webb has put together a video called The $100 Million Disaster of MindsEye, cataloging all of this, breaking it down for us. And I find this intriguing because I've been curious as to like the overall picture of this thing. I covered MindsEye a lot, talked about it a good amount. I have gotten to know some of the guys over at IO Interactive who published the game, and they have actually been very cool about it. I was ready for them to pull like a Bethesda Game Studios, and they're like, you talk negatively, banned. But no, I was very critical of MindsEye, which they published, and they still are like, yep, we're not happy about it either. We're not blaming you for calling it like you see it. Like the game was not ready. The game was buggy and broken. Fair. Like they've been very, very cool about the whole thing. IO Interactive has. But basically, just so you understand the breakdown before we get into this, just so you are very clear about it, how this was structured was that IO Interactive, okay, so there's kind of the parent company, IO Interactive, IOI. They are the big parent company. They also have like development teams that make like the 007 game that's coming out, Hitman. Okay, that game is also under their purview. Okay, so they make games themselves, but they also have a publishing arm called like IOI Publishing House or something. And this was their first attempt to publish a game made by Build a Rocket Boy. So Build a Rocket Boy was not technically part of their company. They had a licensing or a publishing agreement rather with the publishing arm of IOI. And that's where the trouble seemed to start because the money was flowing down from IOI to the company. And largely it was happening because they thought that they were going to make a massively successful new AAA IP. And it was because they had a guy named Leslie Benzies on the team, a former producer at Rockstar who worked on some of the most successful games of all time. So they thought, surely this guy knows what he's doing. And they gave him a lot of money for it. And this video is going to break down what happened because it wasn't good.
Space. Grand Theft Auto. 3 words that became tethered to quite possibly the biggest gaming franchise to ever exist, rather than the actual criminal offense. From 1997 to 2013, we have seen multiple GTA games that took the series to new heights, with GTA 5 making Rockstar and Take-Two Interactive billions of dollars worldwide. Most of that probably came from selling flying cars. Now admittedly, since GTA 5, gamers have been going through a long drought, as for the next 10 years, Rockstar would shut their doors and stay completely silent on any potential sequel, leaving fans wondering if GTA 6 was ever going to happen.
Dude, I forgot about this guy. I don't know what it is about GTA, but there is a culture of just utter nonsense surrounding it, where there's guys that going back to like 2014 were making videos like this that's on screen, claiming they had gotten access to GTA 6 and like posting fake gameplay and all sorts of nonsense. And they do it like once every 3-4 months. And it makes me think like, surely their audience is all like 7-year-olds, right? Like there's no way that like actual adults are seeing that being like, oh, I guess he was mistaken.
There it is! Then Rockstar got hacked, GTA 6 gameplay was leaked, and oh hey look, we've got a trailer. Wonder what happened to that hacker. Despite these circumstances around its reveal,
We looked
the
at that
GTA 6
yesterday.
trailer instantly got fans hyped. And regardless of its delay to 2026, everyone was just happy to once again see another installment in this series.
Yeah, buddy.
Apart from one man. See, this man had became disenfranchised with Rockstar Studios. This man has spent the better part of 13 years making Rockstar's most successful games, and now, this man was about to drop a game that would finally kill GTA. Worst of all, this man was Scottish.
No.
Unless you're super into games development, you might not have really heard of Leslie Benzies. However, I can guarantee you've definitely played one of the many games he's worked on. From Aberdeen, Scotland, Benzies was the producer on every GTA game since GTA 3, and has also worked on numerous other Rockstar games like Red Dead, LA Noire, and Max Payne 3. Anyway, by 2009, Leslie had equal shares in Rockstar and was part of a three-man leadership team alongside both Sam and Dan Houser. Evidently, he was a highly valued member of the company, and this would only become more apparent once GTA 5 hit the shelves and absolutely dominated the market. Fat rip to any other games that came out during September 2013. At this point, Benzies must have felt in, having not only created the second best-selling game of all time, but also being the mastermind behind the money-making machine that is GTA Online. So, after all of his hard work and dedication, Leslie was convinced to take some time off. You know, enjoy a short, little 6-month sabbatical where he could recharge the batteries. Unfortunately though, during the 6-month vacation, Rockstar fired Leslie's son, his friends were fired too, and his company email was locked. Now, sure, this didn't look good, but maybe once Leslie gets back to work, he can figure out what's going on. However, upon arriving at Rockstar North, his keycard, wasn't working. In fact, he couldn't get into the building at all, and was even chased away by security. Rockstar would then later announce that Leslie had decided to leave the company during his sabbatical. This was all his own idea, guys. Come on, look, we're still friends. Benzies, like most friends do, then sued Rockstar for $150 million. Now, I won't bother going in depth with all the details of the lawsuit, because 1, I am not a lawyer, and 2, I might fuck reading all of that, but the bullet points are that Leslie claimed he was forced to take a sabbatical, that the Housers obviously felt threatened by him, and that more specifically, Sam's work on GTA 3 was shit, and it would never have been as successful if it wasn't for Benzies. Take-Two then countersued Benzies, calling his claims bizarre, and it all gets a bit messy from this point. However, during this legal battle, Benzies decided that he wasn't going to be pushed out of the gaming business, and in 2017 he formed a brand new company along with 2 former Rockstar employees.
So, some broader context on a lot of this. So, of course, there's lots of lawsuits involved with his departure, with everything that went down with Rockstar around that time. And so I don't know if we'll ever honestly know what happened, like all the details, because I'm sure it's all going to be locked up in transcripts and court filings and NDA stuff. But what seems to have happened is sometime around the launch of Red Dead Redemption 2, it's like 2018 era, plus or minus a year or two, Rockstar underwent some changes. For one, it was during the really surge of the Me Too movement. There were a lot of allegations of like mismanagement, of kind of burying allegations made against certain people in order to protect sort of the boys club at the top of the company. And this was not just Rockstar or Take-Two. This was Ubisoft, EA, like literally every company went through this. There was also, a broader reflection on a lot of companies' parts to figure out if there were people who were dysfunctional and people who were toxic to the workplace. And at that point, they were like, okay, this is finally the time we can kind of clean house. Blizzard, yeah, is another one. And then on the flip side, there's also the issue of like crunch. So right around COVID era, right at like 2020 is when a lot of companies decided to finally make a move and try to cut crunch from their studios, which is also part of the reason why it seems like right at COVID, games started taking a lot longer. Part of it was like just everything that happened then, delaying everything. That was part of it, of course. But also, studios stopped trying to work employees like 60 hours a week when they were only hired for 40. Like Naughty Dog, notably. They used to have dinners served at Naughty Dog. And what would happen is people would go to work at like 9 a.m., they'd work all day, and then they'd get dinner at the studio at like 5 p.m. and then they'd go eat it at their desk while continuing to work. And so they wouldn't head home until 8 or 9 p.m. And so they effectively just got like another 3-4 hours of work out of that employee, which contributes to increased efficiency, at least on paper, even though there's a human cost and component to it. And so a lot of companies took steps to eliminate crunch and eliminate that. And part of the allegations surrounding Leslie Benzies specifically, again, allegations, was that he was kind of the king of crunch. So he was not particularly sympathetic to people who wanted a better work-life balance. His whole methodology was, you're making some of the best games in the world, you're going to shut up and just like work your ass off. That's what we're doing. Very old school approach. But he left and started his own company, as he's describing, and that's what happened. So lots of drama, behind the scenes lawsuits, all sorts of craziness, but it seems like he left for probably very valid reasons. He does not sound fun to work with. That is going to be a pattern that will come up again, I'm sure, as we go through this, because there were further allegations levied against him from Build a Rocket Boy employees, saying basically, if you don't want to be fired and if you want to stay on the team for any period of time, you basically have to suck up to him and tell him what he wants to hear and agree with everything he says. Like there is quite the ego on this guy. So it's going to continue to come up again and again.
And this is where he would first come up with a brand new gaming experience. See, this new project wasn't just going to be a multiplayer game, it would be an experience unique to each player, constantly developing and growing, allowing you to live out your unlimited fantasies in a deeply immersive open world, blurring the lines between reality and simulation. This wouldn't just be a game, it would be everywhere. Wait, that's the actual title? Now, I think it goes without saying that Everywhere was a hugely ambitious project for Leslie's new studio, now dubbed Build a Rocket Boy after Take-Two saw its previous name, Royal Circus Games, and claimed the acronym RCG was way too close to Rockstar's one of RSG. Anyway, as far as Everywhere goes, the way it was talked about was as if it was going to be this virtual paradise for gamers that they could practically live in. And unlike in VR chats, it wouldn't be infested with furries.
Are you not ashamed to be doing this?
More importantly though,
At first. At least at first. Yeah, Everywhere was supposed to basically be the Fortnite platform or Roblox platform, but for maybe a slightly more mature audience, which there's lots of money. Like, people forget Roblox is literally worth like more than Activision Blizzard. People don't believe me when I say this, but like literally, like look at this. It's ridiculous. The market cap for Roblox today is $91 billion. Microsoft bought the guys that made all of Blizzard's games, World of Warcraft, StarCraft, Hearthstone, like everything. Activision, who make Call of Duty, the biggest game in the world, and King, who makes the biggest mobile games in the world, like Candy Crush. They bought that company for $70 billion, and Roblox is worth significantly more. It's a little sad. Like, it's enough to make you just want to scream, but it's because they just make ridiculous amounts of money, and they have this kind of giga platform. Because again, the real money is not in making a good game. The real money is in making a platform for games. That's where real profit is. That's what they wanted to do.
This was Leslie's big comeback after, in his words, being unjustly fired from Rockstar.
You're fired!
He was about to prove to them what a huge mistake it was letting him go by making this massive, immersive multiplayer experience that wouldn't just emulate the success of GTA, but rather completely nuke it. Everywhere was going to be the ultimate fuck you to Rockstar, and this narrative clearly helped to build interest for the game, as by 2022, Build a Rocket Boy had enticed multiple companies to invest in them, raising well over $100 million. They quickly expanded their reach too, having offices in Scotland, Los Angeles, Budapest, and a fourth soon to open in France, probably to accommodate their constantly growing workforce, which by this point was around 250 employees, including people who had worked on games like Dying Light 2, Watch Dogs, and of course, GTA 5.
What kind of fucking animal do you take me for? No, I didn't kill him. Oh, fuck. But I did kidnap his wife. Oh, no.
The money was there, the talent was there, the clout was even there for Leslie's reputation. This was all setting up for what could possibly be a generational game. One question though. What even is Everywhere? No, like seriously, besides all the vague buzzwords and headlines, we still didn't really know what this game was about, or even what it looked like. The game was a complete mystery. But thankfully, that was all about to change during 2022's Gamescom, when Build a Rocket Boy took to the stage and finally gave us a glimpse of Everywhere. And it was...
confusing.
What the fuck even is this? This reveal trailer somehow caused even more confusion. Like Everywhere was marketed as this next generation game that would push the boundaries of modern gaming. I mean, it was even compared to the Oasis from Ready Player One. This is what people expected, and this is what they got. Can you see why there is a slight issue here?
Okay.
The presentation only left people with more questions. From what was shown, Everywhere looked more like a Fortnite clone rather than anything remotely similar to Leslie's previous work, and it was still unclear what the fuck this thing even was. Some thought it was a metaverse, others thought it was something closer to Roblox, and there was even rumblings of it being an NFT game.
And now the mark. Oh!
However, what we did know is that Everywhere was set to release in 2023. Hang on, pause. Rewind a few seconds. Who is that? During the last few seconds of the Everywhere teaser, it seemed to glitch and warp into a completely different, more realistic art style, showing something way more in line with people's expectations. Once the presentation ended, Jeff did try to ask what this could possibly be, but Adam here dodged the question entirely, while his brain kept on generating more buzzwords.
But we're still passionate about making immersive and cinematic experiences that players can just get lost in and enjoy.
Despite this, we would have...
I think one of the things about the whole MindsEye debacle is fascinating for so many reasons. But yeah, I think it was mismarketed. People didn't know what it was until it was kind of too late. And then it was way over promised and overhyped. So I think Everywhere was a blunder, but like it's also so fascinating to me how you can have a company that has a lot of talent behind it, a lot of people with big names and reputations, and they just won't even tell you what they're doing. Like, what is that thing? The one thing that was interesting about that trailer, what is that? And they won't tell you. Like, you're competing for people's attention. You found something that captivated their attention, and you won't just say what it is. They could have said, so within the Everywhere platform, we're going to have games that we produce and potentially other studios produce as well that are all on that platform. What you saw there was a glimpse of a game we're working on called MindsEye, an ambitious third-person action-adventure game with all of our expertise in open world adventure gaming, like with GTA and all the other projects our team has worked on. And it's going to be included for free in this big package. That makes sense. Okay, I can understand what we're doing. Okay, but they couldn't do that. And what eventually happened, and what he's going to break down, I'm sure, is that they started running out of money, and then the Everywhere platform was kind of put on ice while they tried to finish MindsEye to get some quick cash, and it didn't really work out.
Eventually see more of this top secret project in the form of a 30-second teaser, showing more of this futuristic world with androids, drones, and explosions. This was what fans wanted, and this was MindsEye. But first, the definition of square. An open, typically four-sided area surrounded by buildings in a village, town,
I appreciate I've seen so many Squarespace ads in my day. So many. Tell you what. Because one of my other favorite channels is like Corridor Digital, where they do like the VFX artists debunking UFO videos and stuff. It's really good. And one of their channel sponsors is Squarespace. And so they do a bunch of ad reads for Squarespace. And they're all pretty standard. Like, oh, you can design a custom website that looks really clean and it's really easy and it can take you an hour and then you're done. Like, really straightforward ad reads. Starting an ad read with, what is the definition of a square? And you know what? It's refreshing. I'll give you that. It's a fresh take on the formula. I appreciate it. But yes, ultimately, I think they just got way ahead of themselves and they were trying to build the Fortnite platform without having a Fortnite game. So they thought they could just skip that step. But the reason why the Fortnite platform is so valuable and so powerful is because it has the user base. And the user base came originally and primarily from the game that was tremendously successful. So they were basically trying to skip the most important step of making a massive platform, which is making a compelling game that gets people in. And by the time they realized that they weren't going to be able to acquire users to actually fill out the platform, they realized, oh crap, we're running out of money. And then they desperately tried to finish MindsEye, hoping that that would become the big platform.
This new game being announced, you probably think Leslie and the team at Build a Rocket Boy would have way too much work on their plate. Like they were effectively building 2 AAA games at once, with MindsEye initially being planned as a free episodic game, where each episode would take place during a different time period, and it would only be available to play through Everywhere. Wait, what? Basically, from what I can see, Everywhere was kind of just a glorified level editor, and MindsEye was supposed to be a way to demonstrate what you could create using the platform. So, in other words, it was just Roblox. However, while MindsEye had a decent amount of interest, absolutely nobody gave a shit about Everywhere anymore. I mean, MindsEye was what people actually wanted from a guy who had pioneered the GTA series, and as a result, nobody was even remotely interested in Everywhere. Like, come on, the most replayed part of the next trailer was a second-long clip showing, you guessed it, fucking MindsEye. Nice. Combine that with a really hard to watch gameplay demo and an invite-only beta that, again, nobody cared about, and it was pretty obvious that Everywhere was a lost cause. Its 2023 release date came and went without a word from Build a Rocket Boy. In fact, the only update we got was that they were firing staff. By 2024, it wasn't looking good for Leslie's new studio. They had invested so many years of work into making Everywhere, only for it to get killed off due to how little people cared about it.
All this design that got me drip.
And more importantly, Leslie's plans to get revenge on Rockstar were ruined.
Yeah, it was ultimately something that nobody really wanted and nobody cared about. And I mean, I can appreciate the attempt at a vision, you know, because what Steve Jobs said at one point was, you know, that customers, he's like, my customers don't know what they want until I show it to them, until I show them what they want. Like before the iPhone, everybody thought a cell phone needed a full keyboard and that not having a keyboard and using a touchscreen was stupid. And now that is the standard. Having a physical keyboard on your phone is weird, you know? And so I can appreciate the vision of being like, yeah, nobody's asking for this, but when they see it, they'll love it. The key though, is that to be a visionary, you have to actually know what you're doing. And when you tell people what they should want, they have to realize that they want it. You know, if you're gonna be like, there's a fine line between being a visionary, or maybe a bold line, big, thick, bold line, between being a visionary because you do things that nobody thought was a good idea, but then when they see it executed, they're amazed and they're like, I was wrong, you're right. That's a visionary. And then on the other side is somebody doing what nobody asked for, and then you execute it poorly and everybody's like, yeah, I told you I don't want this. This is stupid. And then it's like, oh, okay, you're not really a visionary at that point. You're just delusional, you know? And I think that that's kind of what Everywhere turned into.
But then Leslie looked at MindsEye. There was interest there. People wanted this game, and he could be the one to give it to them. So the company quickly shifted all their efforts into making MindsEye pretty much sci-fi GTA. Leslie then looked at his calendar and seen that Rockstar was planning to release GTA 6 during the end of 2025, and without any hesitation, he locked in an earlier release date for MindsEye. This was it. This was Leslie's chance to get his revenge on Rockstar by having MindsEye come out first and be an even better game than whatever Rockstar was cooking up. In fact, he wasn't just going to beat GTA 6, he was going to kill it. One super small issue though, they only had a year to build this entire game. I'm sure nothing will go wrong here. Now after its brief teaser in 2023, we wouldn't actually see or hear anything about MindsEye for close to 2 years, leading to most people thinking the game had been cancelled too. But then, during PlayStation State of Play at the start of 2025, Build a Rocket Boy was back. This time with explosions, cyber implants, Tesla bots, men screaming, and of course...
Hello,
I'm Leslie Benzies.
There he is. That's our national pride. Probably important to also note that there was zero mention of Everywhere. MindsEye now had a new publisher in IO Interactive, the same guys behind the Hitman games. Everywhere's website now redirected to MindsEye, and whenever Leslie was asked about it, he pretty much just said, by March, MindsEye had an official release date and a couple new shiny trailers too, one of which gaining 12 million views. How the fuck? However, despite these,
I think they were paid views. You can promote videos on YouTube and basically it just shoves it to the front of recommended feed, and then it also can shove it to the front, at least a while back it would work like this, to the autoplay. So if people have like a video playing and they fall asleep, it can just autoplay into your sponsored video. I don't know if it was bots. I'd have to look into that more because YouTube's pretty good at catching the bots. Yeah, catching the clankers. YouTube's pretty good about it. In fact, you might have seen some of the drama recently over the course of the end of the summer. YouTube put into place like really stringent, as far as I can tell, filtering to count views differently. So a lot of people are complaining views have dropped. And I think a lot of it is that people using ad blockers are no longer counted in the core view count, and YouTube's trying to crack down on it that way. I don't see how that's supposed to do anything, but that's a big component of it. But then they also have done a lot of work to try and crack down on bot views. And I don't know how that's working, but usually YouTube's pretty good about it. YouTube Shorts, not so much, but...
These new trailers looking polished and well put together, the actual work environment at Build a Rocket Boy, according to multiple devs, was incredibly toxic. Leslie had a
YouTube removes views that they detect coming from bots. Yeah, if they know that a view is coming from a bot, then it's not counted. It's why there's usually a delay. Like a video on the website, if you look at one of my videos, it might say like 100,000 views. On the back end that I'm seeing like 125,000 views. But what they're doing in that interim usually is they're validating views and verifying. So they're checking other behaviors of those users, seeing if they're flagging any sort of weird behaviors. Like, for example, if YouTube counts a view after 30 seconds, they're not going to like, and they see that a user is only watching 31 seconds of every video that it watches. That sends up a red flag, right? So if they can identify weird behaviors where they're like, okay, you're just watching barely enough for it to count as a view, and then you're clicking to a different video, and they have nothing to do with each other. So it seems like it's being part of a service that like charges for using their bots to watch videos and boost the view count. So YouTube's pretty sophisticated with it, and they crack it down pretty good. But more likely, they just paid for the video to be promoted out the ass on Reddit, on YouTube, on everything. That to me makes way more sense, especially given the rest of their marketing strategy. But anyway, continuing, working for Leslie.
And at Build a Rocket Boy, according to multiple devs, was incredibly toxic. Leslie had effectively created a company where he was the main character and everyone else was just there to make sure he was happy. Got a different opinion? Fired. Have any concerns with MindsEye? Double fired. Don't agree with King Leslie? Paid vacation. Oh, that doesn't seem too bad actually. To unemployment. Aww. The company's Glassdoor reviews quickly plummeted as a result, with many ex-employees taken to the website to share their horror stories about working at Build a Rocket Boy. Although Leslie didn't care about any of that. Come on, who listens to Glassdoor? Clearly they're just paid off by Rockstar. Outside of the company being an absolute mess, people started to notice just how little of the game had actually been shown. A month out from release and there's still no in-depth gameplay trailers, unlike most other AAA games, and perhaps even more bizarrely, no review codes have been sent out, as it left major gaming news sites completely unread. What Leslie and the team did instead was hold their own preview event for a small batch of YouTubers and journalists, where they showcased the game by having someone play it through fucking Teams. What's even...
Yeah. Microsoft Teams. They did not invite me. Shocking, I know. But they did invite Maddie. Mr. Maddie Plays. And Maddie, to his credit, made a video shortly after this event that was freaking hilarious. We'll see if he talks about it, because it was like the most red flag of all red flags. It was amazing.
More insane though is that despite Build a Rocket Boy trying their best to hide the game's shortcomings by only letting people see super specific parts of it, that still didn't stop everyone in attendance from coming to the conclusion that MindsEye was nowhere near ready.
I know with my platform, when I say these types of things, they come with a lot of weight, but sincerely, this game needs to get delayed. One of the stranger preview events that I've been a part of.
And yet they have struggled so much to
Hey,
communicate.
who's that guy? I didn't know I was in this video. That's funny. Hey.
What the hell this even is.
As they were going through it, there were, yes, a lot of glitches and bugs, and they were so obvious.
I've seen previews in a good state. I've seen previews in a bad state. This is up there with some of the worst I've seen, just in the terms of...
This negative reaction also really upset a few higher-ups at the company, so obviously anyone who had something negative to say about their game was quickly branded as a Rockstar sleeper agent.
That's a good picture. Oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Yeah, to be specific, okay? To be specific, what was said, and it's funny because these two, Spawnwave and Maddie, they went to the preview event. I just talked about it, but because you guys are so great, the videos did pretty well, and so I was kind of put in the same tranche of people. But what Maddie said was something I had never heard for any preview event in my life. They did the whole thing through Teams. Okay. Already weird. Microsoft Teams for a preview event for a video game. What are we doing? Secondly, they then had a hands-off gameplay preview. Okay. Somebody at the company was playing the game and it had all sorts of frame drops, technical issues. Okay. It's work in progress. They reach a point in the gameplay where they can't progress. So they go into the settings, like developer settings, and they turn on God mode to make them invincible to finish the mission. And they do that twice, 2 separate times. They had to turn on God mode to get through a mission. I have never in my life been to a preview event or seen a gameplay demonstration that was that broken. It was so bad that Maddie, Spawnwave, everybody was like, this was bad. This was really bad. And this is what they chose to show people, you know? So after this, I made videos talking about it and being like, I've never heard of something this bad. Maddie's never heard of something this bad. Spawnwave's never heard of something this bad. And any other journalists talking about it, I'm sure also had never experienced something this bad. It needs to be delayed. And all of a sudden, all the weirdness started to make sense. All the extra drama started making like a lot of sense. Why they were being so cagey, didn't want to show it to people. No review codes, no other previews. It's all coming together. It's not ready. They're rushing it out the door. And so, yeah, they labeled us as being paid by Rockstar, which was funny.
By this point, MindsEye and Build a Rocket Boy had so many red flags that you would have to be colorblind not to see them. Like, the game was still weeks away from launching, but there was already multiple videos talking about how bad of a state the game was in. Tell-all interviews were dropping, going into detail about the poor work environments.
You didn't agree with Leslie, so you would be just pushed out in Bombay or another.
Executives were even leaving the company days before the game's release.
Yeah, dude, I kind of forgot about this. They had 2 executives. It was the CFO and the chief legal officer both left. Some of them, like one of them left a couple months before, but then he was finding a replacement or something. But 2 senior executives leaving right before the launch of your first successful game, allegedly. That's weird. That's weird. It's really odd. Are they going to talk about the presentation at Summer Games Fest? I don't think so. So at Summer Games Fest, amazingly enough, and this is why I said that IO was being really cool about it, they still invited me, which was pretty cool of them. Like, honestly, they didn't have to, but they did. So it was this whole showcase thing. Where like they had the same guy that was there for the reveal at Gamescom in 2022 or 3. I forget which one. So the same guy, he's like one of the senior game designers, producers guys. This is Hakan, who is the CEO of IO Interactive. Really cool guy. I got to meet him and talk to him at the 007 event in Copenhagen just like a month ago. No, like 3 weeks ago. Not that long ago. It's also funny story about our friend here, Mads Mikkelsen. He lives in Copenhagen for like half of the year. And what I was told by one of the locals that lives in Copenhagen, they're like, oh yeah, he's kind of like Bigfoot. Like people see him out about the city every once in a while because he lives here. He walks around. He's a chill dude. It's not like he's not one of those guys that's like, I need security with me. Like he just walks around. But they said also, if you're a runner, and if you go running through the city, if you know the neighborhood where he lives at, he apparently will occasionally wake up and he goes outside his house in his like bathrobe and he waits for like basically a DoorDash delivery of cigarettes and he'll just chill and you can just go walk with him, talk with him as he's waiting for his cigarettes. He takes him, goes back inside. He sounds like the most chill, down to earth dude who's just like a bro. Like, honestly, Mads, I think would be a cool guy to hang out with. Most European man ever. Yeah, dude. It was pretty cool. It was pretty fun. But anyway, they still invited me to this, which was pretty cool. And it showed that like IOI was not gonna play defense and cover for MindsEye. They weren't going to excuse all the weirdness with it. They were going to do what they were going to do. And it was now up to Build a Rocket Boy to deal with it. And that also makes sense with everything else. Because I think what happened is that Hakan and the guys at IOI came in, offered basically a life preserver to Build a Rocket Boy and to Leslie Benzies and said, you deliver on your end of the bargain. We'll bail you out financially for 6 months. But you are launching in June. That is it. No delays. No more of our money. You're putting the game out in June. And that's what they said. And that explains the whole energy, the shift, because they forced them to be at the showcase, even though they really did not have much of anything to show. They had like another little trailer that was heavily edited that looked pretty good. But they had like Hitman playable in the lobby. They had the Switch port playable in the lobby. Like they had all sorts of demos in the lobby, but no MindsEye. No MindsEye. And then just like a week and a half, 2 weeks later is when MindsEye was supposed to... Actually, I think it was like 4 days. I think it was like 4 days. Because didn't MindsEye launch on like the 10th? Yeah, I think it was like 4 days. Because it's June 6th is when the event streamed. And MindsEye launched on the 10th. So it was like 4 days. Oh, baby. Oh, baby. So I think that's what happened. I think they were basically told, you are out of time. Get it together. Put it out. And you're going to come to the show. And you're going to talk. And you're going to answer questions. And we're done bailing you out. This is the time to put up or shut up. And that kind of explains why they were not playing cover. They were not trying to silence critics of MindsEye, because I was a critic of MindsEye. They still were inviting me to stuff. They still were being friendly to me. Even though I'm sure Build a Rocket Boy was not happy that I was there, but they were being friendly to me because I was calling it like I saw it. I was bringing up, it looks bad. There's lots of red flags. And they were like, yeah, there kind of are. Fair enough. So I think, the IOI guys, they made a bet on this game and it didn't pay off. It happens. You can't blame them necessarily for that. They tried. It still lands ultimately on Build a Rocket Boy for it being a disaster.
And to top it off, GTA 6 was delayed to 2026, so now everyone's attention was solely on MindsEye. With all of this in mind, surely delaying the game was the best possible choice so that they could iron out the plethora of issues MindsEye had. But then, Rockstar would win, and Leslie couldn't have that. So despite all the warning signs and negative press, on June 10th, 2025, MindsEye actually launched. Players logged on, unsure of what they would see, but surely it wouldn't be that bad, right? Oh no. For those of you smart enough to not spend £50 on this game, it pretty much plays exactly like GTA. Just without the fun mission design, good writing, interactive open world, responsive AI, or any sense of optimization. But besides all of that, it's exactly like GTA. Did I just shoot you for a car? MindsEye released in perhaps the most broken, unplayable state a game possibly could.
Whenever I hear this song, I think of the internet historian video describing all the bugs in No Man's Sky. Goodbye, world. Goodbye, ship.
Players were not only bombarded with some insane performance issues, but also an ungodly amount of glitches, which included brain-dead AI, popping, textures constantly flickering. Why do you look like that? I don't think water works like that. Bad driving. Really bad driving. X Games mode. Finger guns. Sir, I don't think you can hide here. Why is my game running at 2 FPS? And of course, this is peak gaming. One unfortunate loading time is also screenshotted and becomes the go-to image for the game. Honestly, a pretty accurate representation. Other than MindsEye being infested with bugs, it is by far the most restrictive game I've ever played, giving you a game over screen for so much as thinking about stealing a car. What the fuck? See, despite MindsEye wanting to give you the impression that it is an open world game, that is a complete lie. MindsEye keeps you on a strict schedule of constantly going from mission to mission, only wanting you to observe the city of Red Rock from a distance, and if you even think about exploring it, that's a game over. Want to visit your neighbours? That's a game over too. Want to do some gardening? Game over, go play Minecraft instead. Want to actually go to your mission? That's Wait, what? If you're able to somehow explore the city, you quickly realize why Build a Rocket Boy wanted you to only see it from a speeding car, as it is a lifeless wasteland with no cops, no buildings to explore, and nothing else to see apart from androids who are really bad at their jobs.
And here's the thing. I think it's okay if you have a big map that you can't freely explore in a game. The Mafia games work like that. For example, LA Noire kind of works like that as well, where it's pretty much mission to mission in a huge map. So that's okay, as long as the expectations are really clear and the rest of the game is good enough to make up for it. The problem was that they framed it as an open world game, comparing it specifically to GTA through their marketing. And then they were surprised when people said, this is nothing like GTA, this is way worse. Yeah, it is, because it's really hard to go and compete with GTA. GTA is like the kings of open world stuff. So I think, again, it was a matter of expectations, poor communication, and everything else not really clicking together.
But hey, who needs an engaging open world when you have a CPR minigame? It also seemed like regardless of how good your PC was, MindsEye would still constantly crash.
Well, I should have known.
Which was an issue that plagued even sponsored streamers.
I'm ready to game.
As some tried to cope and make excuses for the game.
It's got a little tint of green. Unfortunate.
Unfortunate.
This can happen in gaming. Maybe that's a hacker mechanic. You know,
Unfortunate. It happens. It happens though, guys. Crashes do happen even in great games. That's fair. That's fair. I'll give you that.
hack you IRL. This hacker's working hard.
While others were just...
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Also, shout out to, it looks like he has a bearded dragon in his room. That looks like a bearded dragon to me.
This hacker's working hard.
I love me some bearded dragons.
While others were just utterly lost for words. By this point, Leslie had seen enough, and any sponsored streams had their plugs pulled.
What? The sponsor just paused the sponsored stream.
But the damage had already been done, and everyone had seen MindsEye for what it really was. A complete disaster. Upon its release, MindsEye was slammed across the board, receiving universally awful reviews and becoming the lowest rated game of the year within a day. PlayStation even offered out refunds to anyone who had bought the game, which had only happened once before when Cyberpunk originally launched. Numerous videos and articles came out detailing just how bad the game actually was, from its terrible gameplay to a story which sounded like it had been written by ChatGPT. And yeah, I can definitely see that.
The mayor is filming for her campaign/reality show tonight. I know it's terribly cringeworthy.
The comparisons to GTA were also back, but not in a positive way, as looking at it side by side with GTA 4...
What's that movie called? Is it Twins? Is that what it's... I think it's called Twins. Yeah, it's like literally their brothers, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito are twins. And Danny DeVito at one point says, so we're twins. So you got all the like beautiful genetics, the muscle, the talent, the charisma, and I got all the shit that was left over. It's a good movie. You should watch it.
A 17-year-old game really put into perspective how much of a downgrade MindsEye actually was. This is especially bizarre considering just how much money had been invested into Build a Rocket Boy and the game's development, which at a minimum was $100 million, or as one ex-dev claimed, $500 million. Now, to be fair, there is no proof of this claim whatsoever, and I highly doubt MindsEye cost even half that much.
Yeah.
However, will I be putting that in the video's title? Absolutely. Anyway, after this horrific launch, Build a Rocket Boy jumped straight into damage control mode, saying how upset they were with the issues and that they were working hard to fix them. However, as of this video, MindsEye is still in a very fragile state. Other than that, a co-CEO of Build a Rocket Boy also claimed that ex-devs who spoke out were just incompetent and lazy, which isn't a great look, I can't lie, only made worse by the company then laying off half of their workforce. Now admittedly, I have been very harsh on Leslie Benzies throughout this video, and while I certainly don't think he's blameless in this whole situation, I think a huge issue that definitely impacted the game's development is that he's surrounded by executives that only say one word to him.
Yeah,
As of now though, the future of both MindsEye and Build a Rocket Boy is looking very uncertain. Apparently Leslie did have a quick video call with the remaining staff to discuss potentially relaunching MindsEye in a more stable state, which is great. However, he then reportedly said that a big reason for all these issues was because of internal and external saboteurs, which if anything, proves that Rockstar lives rent-free in this band's heads.
Yeah, he literally alleged that, I'm not sure if it was Leslie. I think the specific article said that it was an executive. So I'm not sure if it was Leslie or another one of the executives. Same thing, like the guy that said that we were all like paid off by Rockstar to talk badly about the game was like the CEO of the company. It wasn't Leslie. It was like one of his right-hand men. But it's not a great look for your team when you're like coping that hard. But it also, I think, just more broadly reflects how unwilling to accept responsibility the executives were. You know, this project that we managed launched super broken, worst reviewed game of the year. Everyone kind of is hating on us for it. Couldn't possibly be our fault. It's gotta be Rockstar. Like, it's just delusional and honestly a little sad, but that's just where they were at. And ultimately, a lot of these companies can only, you know, sink or swim based on the leadership. And I think it's pretty clear that the leadership at the company was the weakest part of it for the entire history of the company. And as a result, it just never stood a chance. Never stood a chance. I don't know if they'll ever relaunch it. I think MindsEye most likely they'll just continue to lay people off and then eventually they'll shut the studio down. Because you got to remember, most of these companies, the only way that you can keep going is if you get funding from somewhere. Usually that's from launching a game that's successful and sells well, and then you play, or you get money from that, and that funds the next game. Or you can use that as collateral to go to investors and say, look, we made $50 million on our last game. Will you give us another 50 and we'll make the next game that we think will make 100 million. And then we both get all of our money back and then some, right? I think what happened will now mean that they can't get investment from anywhere. Because who is going to give them money? If they came to you and asked, can I have $100? And if our next game gets above an 85 on Metacritic, you will get 150 back. But there's a chance you don't get any money back if it flops. I don't think you'd even give them $100. I wouldn't, because I have very little confidence in their leadership. 10 will? 10 cent's hardcore. 10 is cutthroat though. Like 10, if they get the feeling that you're not doing what you need to do, they'll just clean house and do whatever. And they also typically want control. But more than anything, they want a slice of a pie that's already made. That's why they wanted to invest in Ubisoft, because they're like, oh yeah, we'll just buy a slice of Rainbow, Far Cry, and Assassin's Creed, and we don't have to do anything. Easy. So I don't think they'd invest in a company like this. But anyway, very, very good video from Alex Webb. Good recap on the whole thing, everything that went down, solid editing, good energy, and yours truly was in it. How could I not love it? It's fantastic. Very, very good video, my friend. I'll give you a good also subscribe. I can't talk. Subscribe. And I recommend you guys go give him some love on my behalf, and go sub, like the video, all of that stuff. Very well done. Very well done, honestly. Very good. He took my thing.